when we move on to more advanced or intermediate people, they might be thinking, how do we progress? Here, instead of linear progression, we move into sort of a periodization, where we're a planned manipulation of training variables. And this is going to be a lot harder to manipulate, and we have to be more careful, because what we have to do is, as we get more advanced, managing our recovery and our stimulus becomes a lot harder. With linear progression, we just keep adding on bit by bit, but we cannot do that indefinitely. We can't just keep adding weight, moving to harder progressions, or keep adding volume. Eventually, we're going to hit a point where we can't continue anymore. And we need to switch up. We need to move things, and we then need to start managing things. We have to be more careful with how we manage things. This is why with this program, we have to be very important. So whenever you're doing this, making a log and writing down what you're doing is very important, because we need to see what's working and what's not. We need a trackable history of where you're going, what you're adding, what you're taking away, and how we progress. And this is why I think it's very important where we start with more of a minimalist style, where if you're doing a one where you're doing lots of different exercises straight away from the get-go, thinking you need to cover every base, a pull-up, a row, lots of different variations of back exercises to lots of accessory work, it doesn't leave you a lot of room to progress. Where at least if you start from a basic, foundational, one exercise per body part, maybe even to two, when it comes to progression, you can always add and remove exercises, where if you're doing all of them in one go, it makes it harder to know what's working and what's not, and what to take away and what to add. So here, we need to be more mindful of the stimulus for us to progress. And this becomes a lot harder. So we have to start incorporating different tricks, let's say, to be able to allow us to keep going. And obviously there is going to be a natural ceiling of how far we can go with our muscle building and our strength. However, we can manipulate things once we hit a plateau with linear progression. How do we keep progressing? Because we can't just keep adding indefinitely in volume, intensity. We have to start changing those things. And there's a few different ways in which we can do that. So one of the ways is changing our intensity and volume on a daily or weekly basis. So with this, we might just be doing a straight workout every single time. As we progress and try ringing out linear progression, adding volume or reps or adding weight, we might be able to do every week. Then it might get to a stage where we do it every 2 weeks. Then we might get to a stage where we're only going to be able to progress and add a rep or add weight maybe once a month. And as you get more advanced, that's some cases where it might get to, because you need more of a stimulus to be able to keep growing, but there's only so much work you can take. And then the amount of work that you're doing takes its toll on your recovery, and we need to manage those balances. So when we look at what some people will look at as undulating periodization, is we change it from a daily to a weekly. So if we're doing it, for instance, you could be doing an upper body, lower body split. You might have one session, might be high intensity or high volume, and the second workout might be low volume or low intensity, because now we're playing with our intensity and volume levels, because we can't just keep going hard all the time. We need to sort of, in a way, create a wave to be able to grow, to recover, to grow and recover. We can't just keep hitting the body hard. So we can do that on a daily basis, or we can move to a weekly, where we have a week of maybe high intensity or high volume, and the second week it's lower intensity, lower volume. And we change the phases, because we need to be able to progress, but we also need to allow our body to be able to compensate from that.